I don't know how long I was homeless before I stopped counting the days. There was a time when I tracked it, scratched a little line into the underside of a highway overpass every morning like a prison calendar, thinking maybe I'd eventually find a pattern, a reason, a crack in the wall that would let me climb back into a normal life. But eventually the scratches faded, the concrete got cold, and I stopped trying to measure the time between the last time I felt like a human being and now. My name doesn't matter anymore. People stopped using it. People stopped looking me in the eye a long time ago. They see the torn jacket, the beard grown wild, the shaking hands, the smell, and they look right through me like I'm a ghost sitting cross-legged in the parking lot of a forgotten Shell station. And maybe I am. You start to feel like that after enough nights on the street. Like something just left you. Something important, something permanent. It was never one big thing that ruined me. Just a slow series of little decisions, each one chipping away at my life like a pickaxe to a frozen wall, until finally the weight was too much and everything cracked. Lost my apartment, lost my job, got sick, got robbed, slept under benches, drank to stay warm, slept in gutters, drank to forget. Then the shelters stopped letting me in because I couldn't keep from yelling at the shadows. Then I stopped seeing the difference between the shadows and people. Then I stopped caring. I was sleeping in the alley behind the Circle K off Route 221 when I saw the flyer. Just a simple piece of white paper stuck to the back door with scotch tape flapping in the wind. The words were plain, typed in Courier New like something out of a 90s dot matrix printer. Overnight help wanted, no experience necessary, cash paid daily, apply in person, midnight to 6 a.m., the Hollow Pines, gas and diesel stop, Route 54. I almost ignored it, but the wind tore it loose and the paper landed in my lap like a gift. The address was nowhere I recognized. The highway name was weird, but I figured maybe, just maybe, someone would give me a chance. Or maybe I'd die trying and at least I'd die with a roof over my head. Either way, it sounded better than freezing to death next to a broken dumpster behind a gas station that wouldn't even give me a cup of water the day before. I walked for 3 hours. The road to Hollow Pines wasn't on my map. The road signs started getting weird after a while. Handwritten numbers, half-covered mile markers, fog that rolled in even though the weather was clear. But I kept walking. Something about the air felt different, cleaner, colder, like it hadn't been breathed in years. At exactly 11:55 p.m. I saw it, the Hollow Pines gas and diesel stop. There was no town nearby, no lights on the horizon, no other cars. Just this one lonely building with flickering green neon lights and a price board that hadn't changed since gasoline was under $2. The pumps looked rusted but functional. The building was squat, cinder block, and painted that faded white that used to be bright 3 decades ago. There were no security cameras, no music, no sound but the wind and the distant creak of a rusted sign rocking back and forth like a noose in the wind. The moment I stepped inside, everything changed. It was warm. Not just warm, comfortable, dry. Smelled like old coffee and motor oil, and somehow that felt like a welcome. The lights buzzed softly overhead, casting long shadows that didn't always seem to line up with the angles they should have. But I didn't care. For the first time in months, I was inside. The counter was empty. No clerk. No bell. But taped to the front of the register was another flyer. Same typewriter font, same tone. This time it read, "Welcome to your first shift at Hollow Pines, gas and diesel. You are now the sole night clerk. Your shift runs from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. Do not leave the building until your shift is over. You will be paid in cash, located in the blue lockbox beneath the counter. Do not attempt to take more than your nightly amount. You will be watched. Please follow these rules exactly. Your life may depend on it. 1. Lock the front doors at 12. 01 am sharp. Customers will still come. You are not here to keep them out. You are here to keep them in. Do not let anyone in after 12:01. If someone knocks, ignore them. If they begin crying, screaming, or threatening, ignore them. The door must remain locked until 6 a.m., no exceptions. 2. Check the camera feed every 15 minutes. There are 4 cameras, one for the pumps, one for the lot, one for the aisles, and one for the back storage hallway. If any of the cameras go black, do not attempt to fix them. Simply write down the time and wait. The image will return when it's safe. 3. If a customer comes in wearing a mask, do not speak to them. They may browse. They may even bring items to the counter. Do not engage. Simply bag the items, take exact change, and hand them a receipt. Never make eye contact. Never speak. If they speak to you first, you may respond only with the phrase, "Have a good night. Come again." Anything else is dangerous. 4. The bathrooms are closed from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. If you hear noises from the bathroom during this time, do not investigate. Do not speak. Do not respond. The noises will stop eventually. If they do not stop by 4:01, lock yourself in the walk-in cooler until sunrise. 5. Pump 7 is out of service. It has always been out of service. It will always be out of service. If you see a vehicle parked at Pump 7, write down the license plate, if visible, and hide under the counter. Do not move until you hear the vehicle leave. You will hear it, even if the cameras show nothing. This is normal. 6. If a delivery driver comes at 3:33 a.m., let them in. They will knock exactly 3 times. They will not speak. They will leave a single package in the center of the store. Do not open the package. Do not move the package. Do not touch the package. It will be gone by morning. 7. If the radio turns on by itself, immediately change the station to 101.1 FM. Do not listen to any other station, especially not the static, especially not if it speaks your name. If you hear your name from the speakers, cover your ears and begin humming loudly until it stops. 8. Avoid your reflections. Mirrors, windows, and glossy surfaces may behave unpredictably between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. If you see yourself moving when you're not, look away. If you see yourself smiling, run to the cooler and lock the door. Do not look at any surface for at least 5 minutes. 9. If at any point you see a man in a suit standing at the end of aisle 3, immediately turn off all lights and hide. Do not look at him. Do not let him speak. Do not approach. Do not let him leave. The lights may be turned back on after exactly 6 minutes. 10. Do not attempt to quit. You were chosen. You applied. You signed your name. If you leave before your final shift, you will be considered a loose end. Loose ends are tied. Congratulations on your employment. We look forward to your continued service. Management. I stared at the paper for what felt like a lifetime. I should have turned and left, should have run into the dark, kept walking into nowhere. But something deep in me, something cracked and half frozen, recognized the rules not as a warning, but as a structure. For the first time in years, I had structure. I had purpose. I had a roof. I had a place. I folded the rules and placed them in my pocket. I sat down behind the counter. The digital clock ticked over to 12 a.m. The store lights flickered. A cold gust of wind swept through the aisles. The front door creaked behind me. I stood, walked over, and locked it, just like the first rule said. And then I waited. I didn't know it yet, but that was the last night I would ever truly feel alone. The first night went quiet, too quiet, like a warning whispered instead of shouted. I followed the rules to the letter, and nothing happened, except the clock ticked forward and I left with a little envelope of cash in the blue lockbox exactly where they said it would be. $200, in tens, crisp, as if they'd just been printed that morning. And maybe they had. Maybe I should have taken that win, that quiet shift, and never come back. But I did. You don't walk away from a roof, money, and heat when you've been living with rats for dinner guests and hypothermia for a blanket. The next night I returned, just before midnight. Same fog, same lonely road, same cold. I locked the doors at 12:01 a.m. sharp. I sat at the register. I counted the cameras every 15 minutes like clockwork. For hours, nothing happened. Not until just after 2 a.m. That was when I made my first mistake. I heard it. A soft, low moaning sound from the back of the store. Like someone in pain. Like someone hurt and trapped. At first I thought it was a raccoon or a cat caught in the vents, until I realized the sound was coming from the bathroom. The women's bathroom. It started faint. Barely a whisper. But then it grew louder, deeper, until it turned into something like sobbing. Wet, choking sobs. I looked at the clock. 2:14 a.m. My stomach twisted. The rules. The bathrooms are closed from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. If you hear noises, do not investigate, do not respond. But I was curious. That's what did it. Curiosity like a knife between the ribs. I stood, walked slowly back toward the hallway, each footstep echoing louder than the last. The buzzing fluorescent light above the hallway blinked rapidly, like it couldn't decide if it wanted to live or die. The door to the bathroom was closed, but I could see the flickering of movement beneath the crack. Shadows, feet, and then the sobbing stopped. Dead silence. I stood there for a few seconds, listening to the sound of my own breathing, the creak of the old linoleum tiles beneath me, and the unmistakable whisper of something breathing on the other side of the door. I should have walked away, should have locked myself in the cooler and waited, but I knocked once, just once, and the thing on the other side knocked back. 5 slow, heavy knocks. Boom, 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 each one louder than the last. I turned and ran, back to the counter, my heart punching holes in my chest. I slammed the cooler door shut and held my breath for what felt like hours. I didn't hear anything after that. But when I finally came out after 4 a.m., the bathroom door was wide open, the lights inside were off, and written on the mirror in thick black marker were 3 words: "Don't do that." I didn't sleep after that shift. I sat in my room staring at the cash I'd earned, trying to tell myself it was just a test, some weird prank, maybe even part of the job, but it didn't feel like a prank. It felt like I'd poked something ancient and hungry in the dark, and it had blinked. I should have stopped. I should have never gone back. But I did, because I had nowhere else to go. The third night was when everything really began to unravel. I followed the rules like they were gospel, trying to atone for my mistake. I locked the door. I watched the cameras. I avoided the bathrooms. I stayed out of the aisles. But around 3:30 a.m., the delivery came, just like the flyer said it would. A knock, 3 slow knocks. I looked through the security peephole, and sure enough, there was a man standing outside the front door. I couldn't see his face. He was wearing a delivery uniform, but it was off, faded, colorless, the name tag blank. His arms were stiff at his sides. He didn't move, didn't look up, just stood there like he'd been carved from stone. I hesitated. The rule said let them in. I unlocked the door, stepped back, and the man entered without a word. He walked straight to the center of the store, carrying a small cardboard box about the size of a toaster. His movements were stiff, mechanical, like he was being pulled on strings. He placed the box on the tile floor, turned around, and walked back out. Never spoke, never blinked. I locked the door behind him and stared at the box. It sat there, quiet and still. Plain, brown, taped shut, no label, no writing, just cardboard and silence. I tried to ignore it, but it felt like it was watching me. Like if I looked away too long, it would open on its own, until about 3:57 a.m. before the temptation took hold. I told myself I'd just check it, just lift the corner of the tape, no big deal. It wasn't like opening it all the way, just a peek. I knelt down, peeled back one edge of the tape and looked inside. Darkness, that's all. Like the inside wasn't made of cardboard but pure blackness. My flashlight didn't even light it. I should have stopped, but I leaned closer, and then I heard it. A voice, software, whispering my name over and over again. And it wasn't just saying my name, it was begging. "Let me out," it said. "Let me out, I've been in here so long." And that's when something inside the box moved. I fell back, knocking over a shelf of jerky and candy bars. The box rattled once and then went still. The whispering stopped. I waited, watched, and slowly the tape resealed itself. I swear to God, the tape lifted, curled, and closed like it had never been touched. Like it was warning me, like it was giving me one free mistake. The next shift, the radio turned on. It was 1:22 a.m. I was restocking the mini fridge near the front counter when the old radio sitting on the shelf crackled to life. Static at first, then soft music, something classical, off-key, slowing down like a dying record. I dropped the soda can in my hand and ran to the counter, switching the dial to 101.1, just like the rules said. The music stopped. Silence. But then a voice. My own voice. "I see you," it said, clear as crystal, my voice. But I hadn't spoken. "You opened the box. You broke the mirror. You're starting to remember." I slammed the radio off and ran to the cooler. I didn't come out until the sun rose. When I did, the box was gone. The mirror in the bathroom was clean. The radio was unplugged. The only thing left was a new note on the counter, typed in the same typewriter font as before. "You were warned. There will not be another." That was the night I realized the gas station wasn't a place. It was a cage, a test, a trap. And I was no longer just working there. I was part of it. The next shift was coming. I had to go back. The rules were starting to change. The shadows were moving on their own. The man in the suit had appeared once just for a second at the edge of the aisle before the lights cut out and he vanished like steam in the cold. I didn't want to know what would happen if I broke another rule. But I also knew I wouldn't last much longer without breaking something. Because the rules were twisting. The lines were blurring. And I was starting to see things I wasn't supposed to see. I should have walked away after the third night. I should have taken what little sanity I had left, packed the stolen warmth in my pockets, and ran until my legs gave out. But the truth is, I didn't know where to run anymore. You ever look up at the sky and realize it doesn't look like a sky? Like it's too flat, too empty, like something painted on glass just to keep you calm? That's what Hollow Pines felt like now. Like a town sketched in the margins of something bigger, and I was starting to read the wrong pages. When I showed up that night, the fog was thicker, the lights outside the station were dimmer, and something in the back of my head kept whispering that time was wrong. Slower, stretching, dying. It was the fourth shift since I started. Only 4. Felt like months. I did everything by the book just like I was told because part of me still believed it mattered. The cameras at 15 minutes, the radio at 1:22, the aisles, the freezer, the mirror. But something had changed. Something new. I was afraid now. It started with the second knock. Not the usual delivery guy. Not 3 knocks. 2. Fast, sharp. I didn't move. I stood behind the counter with my eyes locked on the door, the lights flickering overhead like they were breathing. Then the power cut out. Not slowly, not in parts, all at once. Black. I heard footsteps, not human footsteps, too heavy, too wet, like flesh being dragged across tile. They walked the length of the front of the store, dragging slowly across the windows. But I couldn't see them, only the outline of their movement, something massive blocking what little moonlight slipped in. Then it spoke, from outside, not with a voice, with something worse, a sound like static mixed with hunger. It wasn't saying words, it was saying feelings. And they weren't mine. It wanted in, and it hated me. I ran to the back room, locked the door, tried to use the old landline to call for help, but all I got was breathing, deep, gurgling breathing, on the line, on every line. Even when I unplugged the phone, I still heard it. In my ear, my left ear. I sat on the floor shaking, trying to remember the rules, any of them that could help me, until I realized something. The rules were changing. They weren't just rules anymore. They were lies. You are not alone. That one repeated in my head, over and over. I didn't write it, but I'd seen it before. On the mirror the night I broke curfew, on the cooler door after I peeked in the box, on the wall of my room the next morning, scrawled in dirt, or maybe dried blood. When the lights finally came back on at 3:07 a.m., I stood up slowly and walked back to the front of the store. The windows were all fogged from the inside. The aisles were rearranged, like the store had shifted while I was hiding. The snack aisle now ended in a wall. The beverage cooler was gone. The exit was closer. Everything was slightly off. I looked at the cameras. Feed gone, just static. I picked up the clipboard with the checklist. Blank. Every rule erased, except one new one, written in fresh black ink, still wet. Ask it your question, it will answer, but only once. I dropped the clipboard. At exactly 3:33 a.m., the register beeped. A receipt printed. I didn't type anything. I didn't touch a button. But the paper slid out slowly, curling until it rested quietly on the tray. I looked down. It said in bold block letters, "Ask now." No context, no explanation. I didn't want to speak, but my mouth moved on its own. I whispered, "What is this place?" And the receipt machine whirred again, printed something. A second receipt. When it finished, I picked it up with trembling hands. "You already know." That was all. I stared at it, waiting for more, for some kind of deeper answer. But that was it. Just that cold sentence like a death knell. And then the machine caught fire. No warning, no sparks, just flames, bright blue, silent. The paper didn't burn, but the machine melted, pooled on the counter like black wax. I spent the rest of the shift hiding in the walk-in cooler, clutching the unburned receipt in my hand like it was some kind of spell. I didn't know what was real anymore. I didn't know if I was even still in Hollow Pines. Maybe I'd never been. Maybe the job offer, the poster, the first paycheck, maybe all of it was bait. I tried to quit that night. I packed my stuff, left the station before sunrise, started walking out of town, but every road led back to the station. I mean, every main road. Took 3 buses, hitched a ride, got off in another county, still walked right back to the front door like I was tethered to it. It wasn't just a job. It was a loop, a trap, a curse. I was part of the gas station now, like blood is part of a wound. And no matter what I did, I'd have to go back for the final shift, the equality, final rule I hadn't been given yet, and I could feel it waiting, just beneath the skin of the world. It was going to ask something of me, something that couldn't be undone, something that would change everything. I stopped counting days because the clocks didn't matter anymore. Neither did the rules. The station didn't sleep. It breathed, it waited, and something inside it was getting hungry. I don't know how long I stayed gone after the 3rd shift. Could have been hours, maybe weeks. But no matter where I hid, under bridges, in alleys, churches with burned out lights and whispering pews, I always woke up with gravel in my hair and gas station receipts in my pockets. None of them printed with ink, just heat, just pressure. Like the machine had seared something into me, burned words I couldn't read deep under my skin. My mind began to rot at the edges. Dreams came stitched with static. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard it. The voice behind the rules, behind the store, behind the glass. It didn't speak like before. It didn't need to. The feelings were louder now, closer, welcoming, familiar, hungry. On the 7th night, At least I think it was 7. I gave up. I walked back to the station. My feet bled, my teeth ached, my body felt paper thin, stretched between memories and something else trying to wear my skin like a uniform. The building looked smaller than before, bent somehow, not with age, but intention. Like it had been rebuilt by something that didn't understand corners or time. The inside was worse, darker. The shelves were empty. The coolers were humming but filled with nothing but air. And something smelled like copper and mildew and wet wood. The clipboard was gone. So was the register. So was the door. But I walked in anyway. The lights didn't flicker anymore. They pulsed, like veins, like the whole store was breathing in my rhythm. I stepped behind the counter where I'd died 1,000 invisible deaths, where I'd asked the question and gotten the wrong answer, where the receipt still sat in the drawer, unburned. I touched it. It felt like skin, warm, like it had been waiting for my hand to return. I tried to speak, but my voice cracked into nothing. That's when the sound started. Not a scream, not a growl, not thunder. It was laughing. Low, ancient. The sound of something that had been laughing since before humans had mouths. It came from the walls, the tiles, the air vents, the pipes. The freezer door swung open on its own and revealed the mirror again. But this time, it didn't show me. It showed the counter. I turned around to look at it, but it was empty. The mirror, though, it showed someone standing there. Tall, thin, wearing my clothes, wearing me. I touched my face. I wasn't there. I was behind the mirror. And he was out here. And he smiled. The final rule printed itself onto the floor in bleeding letters. "You may clock out now." I dropped to my knees. I screamed. I didn't have a time card. I didn't have a shift number, but I had a name. I think I had pain. Still, that meant something, right? I crawled to the back room where the clock used to be. But it wasn't a clock anymore. It was a mouth. And inside was a hallway. Narrow, ribbed, pulsing, and it led down. Way down. I had no choice. The door behind me was gone. I entered the hallway. It felt like swallowing myself, like falling into a wound. The hallway led to the heart, the truth. And when I stepped inside, I understood everything. The gas station wasn't a building. It was a filter, a test, a trap. A living organism built to consume the weak, the lost, the forgotten. Every station like it across the world pulsed in sync, feeding something older than creation. Every homeless man who accepted the job wasn't given a second chance. He was by Yedi chosen, not for redemption, for recycling. I saw them, all of them, the ones who came before, their faces stitched into the shelves, their names buzzing in the fluorescent lights, their screams looped through the intercom. And then I saw myself, standing at the counter again, body moving like it was on strings, lips mouthing the rules to a new recruit, a new me. Because the job never ends. You don't get paid, you don't retire, you become the shift. I was the rule now, the clipboard, the whisper, the flickering bulb. I watched as the new guy stepped through the door, skinny and cold, eyes sunken like mine once were. I tried to scream, to warn him, but all that came out was static. All I could do was watch and wait, because the gas station had to feed, because the night shift must continue, because someone has to work the graveyard.